People need financial stability, independence to do whatever they want. When I saw how much we paid for this company, for Caterpillar, that's when I understood that's what I'm going to do. If you can build something of valuable that somebody really wants, they will pay you for it.
Jak Buckley is a technology innovator, executor, and founder of INY, providing Intellidrive technology, hybrid systems, software, and operating solutions designed to increase uptime and lower operating costs for mining, energy, and marine operations.
I wanted to build a company that I could sell. My granddad used to say, Chris, it seems that you just know when to jump.
What would your advice be to someone who's listening, who's looking to build value, like you said, and find the right time to exit?
So once you achieve that, it gives you a different playing field. Well, the automotive boys, they spend billions on R&D. So we had a look around, we integrated those, and it's just a badass product.
What do you think were some of the biggest lessons you learned from that sale of your previous company, ST9?
What is the best value I can build this product for? What is an acceptable amount of margin? Will the customer take it?
For anyone listening to this right now who wants to build something but scared of making that jump, what would your advice be to that listener out there?
Well, the first thing is...
Chris.
Rory.
You spent the first 10 years of your career working as a machinist, and you mentioned it was the greatest experience you've ever had, taking something from the raw material to the finished article. And how has that experience helped you build and scale multiple successful companies in the energy industry?
It was a great start, and I would not have changed the path that I took for nothing. I remember actually finding the job in the local paper. I was at my mum and dad's house, opened the paper, and it said apprentice machinist. Didn't know what I wanted to do when I left school. Bid on the job. And next thing you know, I was making £1.50 an hour as a machinist at BD Engineering. Started off on the lathes, and then everything went CNC, and then up into machining centres. But I really enjoyed it. I loved taking castings or material, working out how we were going to make it, how it wouldn't distort, how it would meet the print, then programming it, and then making the parts. And it was really fun, really fun. It was a family-owned company, and they were really recognised in the UK for being one of the best in the industry. It was absolutely fantastic. I went day release for college, so it was the best of both worlds, right? You got some formal education as well as some practical experience. It was great understanding what a tolerance is. A lot of designers nowadays have never made anything. If you ask them what 0.1 of a millimeter is, they don't know what it is, right? They have to read a book to see what tolerance is to put on things. So actually making things, understanding how material reacts as you machine them, and then what the finished product needs to be and how long it takes to make. So understanding just like, hey, what does it take to do this and how much should it cost? But based in minutes, it was very valuable. Yeah, so that was a great 10 years. If anything, right, would be like, what was the sweet spot and what you need to learn, what you can learn, and like when should you exit, is what I've learned now. And I think, maybe I should have done 5 or 6 years, got a great bunch of experience, and then found out what was next. But in them days, I thought I was going to be a machinist forever, so I didn't realize, right? So that's why we ended up doing 10 years.
And relating it back to a young person listening to this, why do you think the world needs more skilled tradespeople? And like, young people are going to university racking up hundreds of grand in debt, whereas going into a skilled trade, you can start earning at a very young age. Why does the world need more skilled tradespeople?
The world needs them because we need to make things. However, why aren't the people wanting to go in there is a different question, right? So could it be perception that people think everyone needs to go to college and university? Could it be when you're at college and university, the people that are teaching you are giving you a different perception of what you should actually do when you leave university, encouraging you to stay on at university and get a master's or a PhD and give them even more money, get yourself into more debt, is probably one of their incentives too, right? However, I'll tell you a story. My dad was out for dinner the other week in England, and somebody was talking the other end of the table. Somebody's at university, doing engineering. And the person said to him, like, oh, how long's your course? Oh, I'll be on here for 5 years. And the person next to the lad says, what are you going to do when you finish university? Oh, I don't know. As long as I can work from home, that'll be great. So people going to university thinking that they don't even want to do something. So certain jobs you can work from home, right? But certain jobs you can't, and engineering is not one of them, right? Maybe you can do a hybrid eventually, but anyway. So I think people's perception is a little bit screwed when they leave university to start off with straight away.
So you left university, you studied at Loughborough, and you started your career working at companies like JCB and Caterpillar.
Right.
What did you learn from working at those companies, and when did you think, like you said, when did you realize it's the right time? Look, I've learned what I've learned. I'm ready to make the jump and start my own company.
You know, my granddad used to say, Chris, how have you got through life that it seems that you just know when to jump? So my first one was a bit slow, but I then learned how to read and then when to move on and then do what's best for myself and my family. So from a machinist, I went to JCB, and I was a machinist there for 6 months, and I bid on some jobs as a draftsman. Well, it was a design role, so I'll say that again. So I went to JCB, did a machining for 6 months, and bid on a job as a designer, and went in there, did a great job with the chief engineer, so I thought. And he came out a few days later, he goes, Chris, says, you did really well. He was really impressed. He says, but you know, there's a guy with a first class honours degree from Strathclyde University, and we're going to give him the job as a designer. But we were very impressed. Would you take a job as a draftsman? I thought, man, that's great. I can get off the shop floor. And so I got off the shop floor and thought, hey, I'm actually way smarter than all these guys, right? I can get more done than these people that came out of university. And so actually I wasn't very well received. I used to call them the graduation gang. You know, they would always talk to each other and say, hey, are we going for a coffee? And say, oh yeah, they're going for a coffee. And off they go, and nobody would invite me, right? I wasn't part of the team. And so all I did is kept my head down and worked out like, how can I just progress? And so then I became a designer, then senior, then principal, and then I was the engineering manager in the end, right? So it actually encouraged me to try harder. So I ended up looking after hydraulic cylinders for all of JCB in the UK. So that was pretty cool.
And then you made the jump. When was it 2008, you first moved to the US?
Oh, so actually it was 2006 when Caterpillar first approached me. And somebody called me up and said, hey, Chris, you look after some hydraulics for JCB. Why don't you come do it for Caterpillar? And I thought, well, why are you calling me, you know? And anyway, again, just a humble lad that a guy from Italy and a guy from America flew over. We went out for dinner and he said, oh, come work for us. So what do you want me to do? He said, oh, I want you to look after hydraulic cylinders for Caterpillar. I said, oh, okay. Where do I do that? It'll be in the States. So it was a bit of a shock, right? That somebody, one, was interested into you, and then two, the opportunity to change countries, right? It was like a fresh start. So we spoke to the family and we said, hey, let's try it for 3 years. Let's see what happens. So we ended up moving to the States in January 2008. And it was just a fantastic experience with Caterpillar. With it being a global company, you know, we'd go to China every month, Japan, every corner of the world Caterpillar will take you because that's where they manufacture. So yeah, it was a great experience. Great to understand different cultures and how to manage different people. And it was fantastic.
And fast forward from all this experience, like learning product development, testing, learning how to get shit done, like you say. What was the jump like starting ST9?
Oh, ST9. You know, so I ended up with cylinders, then valves for Caterpillar. And then one day my boss came in and goes, hey, Chris, do you know what a frac pump is? And I goes, no. So I went back to my office, I Googled frac pump popped up. And I went back, I said, hey, Ron, I've seen a frac pump. He goes, great, you're in charge of that. You got to make one for Caterpillar. I goes, oh, great. So that's how I got into oil and gas, actually, into the energy sector with Caterpillar. And at the same time of doing an internal development, you know, typically when you want to get into a product, you got an acquisition or you got a greenfield, right? So you can start from scratch. And so we took both options, actually. We developed our own frac pump, and at the same time we looked for an acquisition, and we ended up buying a company in Houston for Caterpillar. And that's how I actually got down into Houston, was to be part of that team and integrated into Caterpillar and to make some cool products for them.
And starting out for ST9, what was your mission? What did you want?
My mission. The funny story is that, you know, when I saw how much we paid for this company, for Caterpillar, that's when I understood acquisition. So again, going back from machinist, you didn't understand the office. You move into the office, you don't understand about mergers and acquisitions. You learn a bit about mergers and acquisitions, you can realize, wow, if you can build something of valuable that somebody really wants, they will pay you for it. And so I thought, well, that's what I'm going to do. And so I did a stint at Weir, who at the time was probably the market leader in frac pumps, and then left there in 2016 to start ST9. And the main objective was to get financial stability, right? Everybody builds a company for certain reasons, and people will say, hey, I do it for the right reasons. I do it for, whether it's humanitarian, whether it's to save the planet, whatever it is, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, people do things for themselves, and people need financial stability, independence, and then to do whatever they want. So once you achieve that, it gives you a different playing field. So anyway, cut to the chase is that I wanted to build a company that I could sell. But at the same time, it's got to be needed to sell, right? It's got to be desired by somebody to buy you. And so we thought a couple of things. One was technology. Oil and gas was very scarce on technology, and the value proposition was very different as well. So again, coming back from our humble beginnings as a machinist at JCB Caterpillar, understanding value was ingrained into you. You know, typical profit margins was a lot different than what people expected in oil and gas. And so it was a great opportunity to bring a different supply base into the oil and gas world, giving some technology and some better value.
And you had some incredible achievements from your time at ST9. You created first product, DigiFrac, for example, the first electric fleet, digital fleet in the industry. Yeah,
that was later on. You know, first of all, you got to generate some cash flow. So we started off with the smaller products, and at the time, you know, I think a fluid end. I still talk to Kyle now from going to Denver. He doesn't work there no more, but he remembers when the first stainless steel fluid end was $118,000. That's where the value prop was, right? We were making them for maybe $58,000 at the time. Another company was making them for $50,000. That company is still around now, doing great value and pushing technology bound. So I think it reset the opportunity. Instead of being an opportunist market where you try and sell for what you think the market will pay, it was like, what is the best value I can build this product for? What is an acceptable amount of margin? Will the customer take it? And that just reset our expectations on the fluid end market. And then we got into power ends, and we thought, okay, how can we get into the power end market? So the power end is the part that holds the fluid end that does the pumping, right? Yeah. So these are huge pumps. For people who don't know, you know, they're maybe 2,500 horsepower. They'll operate for 24 hours at 1,800 horsepower all month. They're huge. And we thought, hey, how can we capture the market? So a lot of people, or the big guys at the time, would sell a product for a certain price, brand new, and they would sell the same product refurbished for a price. And we came up with a strategy that we could build a product that was brand new, maybe a better product could live longer for the same price as the competitive refurbished price. And somebody only told me the story 3 months ago. They remember when they saw some of our sales prices go across their desk. It's like, hey, how are we going to compete with this? And that's how we ended up being number one in power ends. Was to sell a product that was superior at better value. And that's what we did there. Then DigiFrac, as you mentioned, was a technology play. Everybody said they were doing electric fleets. So electric in them days was, hey, I've got a mechanical trailer. I take off the prime mover, which would be diesel, and then just put a big ass electric motor on. Well, that's not really innovation, right? You just switch one power source for another power source. And so we thought, well, if we were to build an electric pump from the ground up, how would it be? And so we decided to integrate the electric motors into the pump. So our pump at ST9, which is now Liberty's DigiFleet, was to how to integrate and build a purpose-built electric pump. And that's what we did. And we thought, well, where do we get the electric motors from? Of course, everybody's got these big, dumb, copper-filled electric motors, right? Air-cooled. They think's fantastic. And we thought, well, the automotive boys, they spend billions on R&D. So we had a look around, and we actually took some guidance, and we actually ended up sourcing products from the automotive sector. You know, people that would make 60,000 of these motors a year, very compact, very power dense, very cost effective, and we integrated those, and we ended up putting 10 electric motors integrated into a frac pump. Which, a couple of things: one, it helped us to get around some patents that were out there, and two, it gave us a lot of controllability, some longevity. And it's just a badass product. If you go onto Liberty's website now and type in DigiFleet, whether it's Prime or DigiFleet and DigiFrac, it is just badass.
They're beautiful products. They have amazing branding, and I love your kind of bold and innovative approach, not only on the product side but up yours to normal upstream. Yeah. You weren't afraid of being polarizing and being a little bit out of the box with your marketing as well.
Yeah, that's the, we just wanted to be different. We wanted to be different. We wanted to approach it, say, hey, we're here, this is what we're going to do, and just create a great brand and recognition for ourselves and the team.
And for anybody listening, obviously you saw the company, and knowing the right time when to make the exit, what would your advice be to someone who's listening, who's looking to build value, like you said, and find the right time to exit?
Yeah, and it can come at any time. We were really lucky with Liberty. They were probably the best partners we could ever wish for. Just the people, the culture, their approach to things. Ron Gusak is now the CEO for Liberty, right, with the transition of Chris. And I remember one day he texted me and says, Chris, this product development, how much and how fast can we do it? And I texted him back and said, it's going to take this long and this many dollars. And he texted me back and says, do it. And it's just a phenomenal different approach to doing things. It's any other company for that amount of time and amount of dollars needed. It would have gone up to the board of directors. You would have done 10 different PowerPoint presentations. But, their approach is trust is one. And two is just like understanding to get stuff done. And it's just phenomenal. Now, to your question, when to do it, it can come at different times. We were very young, our company was, and we needed growth capital. And so PwC looked for different people to try and help us. Then we had the normal offerings, some great people. Some great people offered us money, but the last moment, Liberty came in and wanted to see us. We did a bit of a phone call, realized we got very similar culture, and our approach to business and technology was the first one. And then just meeting them, I remember sitting down. They said, "Come meet Chris." So it was me, Ron, Chris, and Michael Stark and Nick, who was one of our partners. And we sat down. It's like, hey, what is the value of this company? What is the benefit to Liberty? Within 15 minutes, boom, we got a number, got an agreement. And it's not about making the most money all the time. It's trying to find a good fit. Who can help you get to where you need to go? And it just worked out. And we were really lucky that it was a really short period of time. Typically, it could be 5 years. People most want to exit in 7. Some people want to build a family company that goes on for generations. And it just all depends. But the thing is to make something that somebody else wants. It's got to be attractive, right? And I think that was the key. And maybe DigiFrac was part of that. I don't know. Maybe we got really lucky that people wanted to vertically integrate at the time. But yeah, just Liberty. We were very lucky. Yeah.
Focus on creating value, like you said.
Yeah.
And what do you think were some of the biggest lessons you learned from that whole takeover and sale of your previous company, ST9, into starting your new brand, INY? I want to fast forward to.
Oh gosh, that was a fast one. Hey, so what did I learn from ST9? What one was, who'd you get on the bus with you, and who should not get on the bus with you? What skill set do you need, and what skill set don't you need? Would I change anything? No. I wouldn't change anything at ST9, purely for the reason that it was lessons learned, right? And so that makes you stronger when you make your second company, or a future company. So yeah, it's the lessons learned from it was, could there be a change? Could you have negotiated something different in contracts? Sure, but that's life and benefits of learning. Everything was great, and I wouldn't change anything. I really wouldn't. It's all about creating value. Liberty got the value that they needed. We delivered the technology that they wanted, and then it came a particular time when we delivered the technology. We delivered DigiFrac for them, which is part of the DigiFleet. That was rolled out. It was in the field, and then it was time to be creative and start again. I thought about retiring. I came home and I said, I'm going to retire. And I told Liberty, hey, I'm going to retire. And one day, one of my good friends, actually a Canadian guy, called me up. He said, hey, Buckley, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to retire. He says, no, you're not. You're not going to retire. He says, I just been on the phone. Somebody was telling me about DigiFrac running the field, telling me how badass it was, and it was the best thing they'd ever seen. He says, don't retire. And so I thought, oh, okay, I won't retire. I'll probably, I just wanted to get myself a little building, just mess around with a few things and make some cool technology, And I thought about, we've done pumps, we've done the fracking side, but I thought, what else is out there? And a big component of the frac trailer is a transmission, and Caterpillar make a great product. They probably have 90-95% of pins, so percentage of new industry sale. do a great job. That transmission came to the market and started to ramp up in about 2008, but hadn't changed much over the years. And I thought to myself, you know, what improvements could we make to that technology? Just like what we did to the frac pump, you know, how we digitized it. And I thought, you know, at the moment, either everybody's full electric or they're full mechanical, whether it be natural gas, maybe diesel, maybe a blend of both, right? And so I thought, you know, I'm going to make a hybrid transmission. And so that's what we did. I bought a bunch of automotive transmissions. I had them in my garage, tore them all down, and thought, man, this is what these guys are doing. How can I make a version of this for energy, marine, and other industries? So that's how I decided, like, hey, let's go make a transmission.
For anyone who doesn't know, who is INY and what is the mission? What's the why behind INY?
So we touched on it just. It was basically to design some cool technology. Let me have a little play, and let's see what pops out the sausage machine, right? But when I was structuring the company, you know, I got to thought, you know, what we didn't touch on, you know, I wasn't very well for the last couple of years that I worked for ST9, and there was a bunch of people that really helped me deliver some product, and they were really good people. And I thought, you know what, it's payback time. And so the people that are structured within INY now are actually a lot of people that helped me to deliver what I needed to deliver with ST9. So it's not necessarily revenue or wealth generation for Chris. It's payback time for other people to get wealthy too. For me, it's to develop some cool technology, because I always find it dead exciting on how can you solve a problem differently. Yeah. And so that's what we're going to do. So the plan is to first generate some cash flow. People need cash. You know, as a family, we've agreed to invest so much money into this business, but that's a defined amount of money. And you know, we're 1 year old now, maybe 13 months old, and our first product is being built now. And I think that's just phenomenal. You know, I'll tell you a story. I was in Intellidrive in June. It's a Johnny Daniels event. And I was on a panel, and one of the questions was, are you worried about the 800-pound gorilla in the room, right? And it's like, no, not really, because, you know, they might start to change their product direction to maybe what we're doing, but by the time they form the team and execute it, and they will execute. Hey, somebody really doesn't want to fuck with you, don't they?
What's happening? Like, it sounds like an apocalypse downstairs.
We get it all the time, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
No, it's like very loud.
Is it?
Yeah.
He'll pick up certain frequencies, right? That's really.
Oh my god.
He'll be gone in a minute.
Yeah, hopefully. Usually it's there's a fire station right down the road, so we're a bit.
It's a SWAT team from Caterpillar come around and take me out.
They've heard you talking.
So back to INY, right?
Back to INY, yeah. So one question I have for you is, where did the name come from?
Oh, can
INY.
we go back? We haven't told you about the product yet, you know.
Yeah, let's go back.
Let's go back a little bit on. So, you know, so we formed the company.
Yeah.
Everybody's on board, and like, what is your product strategy? So the first thing you do is generate cash flow, right? We agreed a certain amount of money that the family would put into the company, and that'll get us going, and let's see what pops out. So, as I said previously, the first thing is in energy, in fracking, or even in marine, it's either full electric or mining even, right? It's either full electric or full diesel, but there's no hybrid systems or true hybrid systems, right? People might put an electric motor on one end, but nothing's integrated or it's not programmed to operate maybe like a Toyota Prius or something like that, right? Where the computer takes care of everything. So that was our first thing. You know, we bought a bunch of competitive products, tore them down, saw how we could improve it, how we could integrate electric motors. Now, our first product, you know, our first housings are in the shop now. We have the bearings, we have the valve blocks. There's a few more parts that we've got to wait to come in. But first week of February next year, we'll be launching our product at the SP show, which you call something else, right? H, it goes by anyway. But I call it the SP show. Anyway, so we'll have our first product there. And so it's the first hybrid high horsepower transmission, I think, in the world, right? I mean, these transmissions can do over 3,000 horsepower. They can do 10,000 newton meters worth of torque. It's got 1.5 megawatts worth of electrical power embedded into it. And the programs are just absolutely badass, right? The software inside is just awesome. And so that's our first product, right? Go to market, we've got a hybrid system. And so then what else might we have in our portfolio? So we have the competitive products that own the market. So maybe just as we did power ends for ST9, how can you give somebody a product of better value at a lower price point? So maybe let's go and do that. Let's go take some market share. So that gives you more cash flow, lower profit. Hybrid gives people product differentiation, gives you cash flow immediately. And then the next one is where is product going in the future? If you look typically on a frac, or if you look typically on boats, all marine are trying to go to some kind of electric propulsion, either to go into harbors or to make the resonance. If you've ever been on a cruise, you can feel the resonance in the boat, right? So how can you get rid of that? But then everybody's going to more power density. So the more engines that are coming onto the market now are, typically in fracking, it's a 12 cylinder unit, right? People are going to 16 cylinders, 20 cylinders, but there's no transmission to take that torque from the engine to what you want it to do, right? So that's what we're going to do, right? We're going to make a huge, maybe a 15, 16,000 Newton meter transmission. So that'll be our product portfolio, hybrid systems, large transmissions, Me Too at a better value price point.
And for the hybrid systems, it works quite similar to a hybrid car.
Yeah.
So was that did you take inspiration from that when you were building out the product?
Oh, for sure. If you're looking at my garage at home now, I went on eBay and bought a bunch of wrecked transmissions from vehicles which were probably at cutting edge, maybe 1 or 2 year old technology. How were the automotive boys doing it? Never be too proud on what you're doing. You go on eBay, you buy a transmission, a couple of $1,000, tear it down, work out how they're doing it, and that's what we did, and took some inspiration from that.
So your approach, you kind of like to work backward. You like to tear things down and understand how things work from a first principle. Is that part of your methodology?
Yeah, or somebody's doing really well. So the automotive boys spend billions of dollars on transmissions and understanding what they do. Chris doesn't have billions of dollars, and so, maybe we can get a couple of $1,000s to buy a transmission off eBay. So that's what we did, and it's a scale, it's a technology. How do they approach things? How do they do it? What materials do they make things out of? Typically in automotive, it's very cost sensitive, so they might go too cheap. Where in fracking, energy, marine, mining, it's all about reliability and uptime. So you have to put a different spin on it, right? So typically our safety factors will be completely different. Our duty cycles are completely different. A car, they might rate these supercars at 1,000 horsepower, but they only do it for 15 seconds at a time, and they only do it when their buddy comes around to take them up the road for a bit of a spin. So the duty cycle is completely different. Marine is going all the time. Mining operations is 24/7. Fracking is 24/7. It is just a phenomenal amount of power going through there continually.
And for your customers as well, there's a huge amount of value. Your products can save, up to $12 million per annually. How does it help solve that problem and provide value?
Yep, and that's a very well-known thing. And there's a big push in the industry now, and all the big E&Ps and the big service companies are talking about it. A lot of people have their own energy sources on pad, because what comes out the well is oil, and what comes out there is gas, right? And so there's a lot of diesel spent. Typically a pad might be running at 20 megawatts, 30 megawatts, and there might be between 230, 265 pads running in the US and Canada. So it's a huge amount of opportunity, right? So if you can use your own natural gas to power your own frac fleets, depending on the price of gas, depending on the size of your fleets, you might be able to save between $10, $14 million per fleet per year. Then you times that by 235, which might be today's number. It's a huge amount of opportunity, and that's why the big push is to go towards natural gas. It's cleaner burning. It ticks a few boxes for the E&P companies too. So that's the beauty of the hybrid system. She can run off electricity from generators. She can run off her own battery systems. If she runs, say, let's take a Prius, right? Because probably that's the most popular hybrid car that people know. You drive the car, and the computer's working it out for you, right? Do I have enough battery power? Okay, I'm going to start off on battery power. Thanks very much. Okay, I'm going a little bit too fast now. Energy consumption's too high, or my batteries are depleting too fast. I'll start the petrol engine, so that feeds in. And that's just purely how this hybrid system will work. Do I have mains electricity? Do I have battery? Do I have natural gas? If I'm a dual fuel fleet, do I have enough natural gas? Okay, not enough natural gas. Let's go back to diesel. And so the computer will work out the most efficient way to operate the transmission, but the same way making sure it doesn't stop.
That's that relationship between hardware and software, and that's something you've been very focused on when building these products.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Besides from the hybrid systems, can you tell us a little bit about frequency on the fly and some of your new products?
That's another product line, right? Energy is huge, right? Supplying electricity is huge. There's not enough infrastructure in the United States to transmit power from one side to another. And we know, right, every time there's a bit of a storm, everybody goes out with power, right? There's some companies out there doing a fantastic job making mobile power. They're doing an awesome job, and they're doing a great job for us, right? Because not only are they supplying power to infrastructures like frac fleets, but also supplying power to the grid, right? And that's what we need. However, in Chris's opinion, this technology is not very revolutionary, right? It's standard. We call it genset. It's an alternator and a reciprocating engine. That's what it is, right? And there's a handful of people that make them, and there's probably a couple of people that are the ones that you want to use for what we need for our kind of level of kilowatts that we need out. So, and then there's people that use it, and they are buying energy at kilowatts per hour. So what have you got there? Your business scenario is like, what is the most cost-effective way can you buy the gensets? Okay. The next one is like, what can you sell the kilowatts per hour for, and what service can you give? And then the integrator in the middle, what's your relationship with him to make sure you get these units assembled into the customer as fast as possible? So in Chris's opinion, there's not a lot of technology in there. Some people would argue differently. I think in the packaging, in the integration of it, there's some really cool stuff that people are doing, right? To get the power density, to get the efficiency, because these engines need the right amount of cooling, the right amount of oxygen at the right temperature, at the right time, how they ramp up, how do they control, how do they get turned on. There's a little bit of magic there. But basic technology, let's go to the alternator end, the part that bolts to the engine. You know, depending on which manufacturer you pick, it's just a big dump bunch of copper. It's air cooled, and in Chris's opinion, it's not that sophisticated, right? So we thought, like, what do people really want? People want a smaller footprint. They can make it lighter so they can road it into more states, and then the electricity is actually a little bit dirty that comes out. When we say dirty, you know, it can run standard stuff, but as computers, technology, the people that use these things need cleaner electricity. You know, how can we make or rectify the electricity to make sure it's cleaner? So that's what we came up with. And so we came up with a product that can deliver that. It's different, it's technology, but also the touch we said, frequency on the fly, right? You know, these assets are huge, but people might want to deploy them anywhere in the world. The problem with deploying it anywhere in the world is people have different voltages, they have different frequency, and you can't just take a genset that was designed for North America and send it over to Europe, right? You can't send it to the Middle East. The beauty about our product is because we are generating our own sine wave of electricity, we can change it, right? We're digitally creating it. So whether we digitally create it to 50 hertz or 60 hertz, you can just do it by touching a radio button, right? It's badass, right? And so the appealing thing of that is that, you know, you might have demand in North America now, but if something happens and or you want to redistribute those assets, say to Saudi Arabia or to France or wherever you want it to go in the world, right? You've got to change the frequency, and that's what she'll do. So ticks a lot of boxes.
Typically, a generator doesn't have this type of customization. What are the typical problems that generators face?
Well, you know, what I've seen is, you know, the engines are very well known and understood, and the application in very arduous conditions. And I don't think people don't appreciate this. When people deploy these units, especially in energy and in a frac location, if they're up in Canada, where we are now, right, people are fracking at minus 40 degrees, minus 50 degrees. It's just like unheard of temperatures, right? And these are the most arduous conditions, not just for the equipment, but for the people. And when it's not freezing cold, you're in West Texas in the height of summer, where it's 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And then in between the units, the air temperature may be 120 degrees because it's not filtering through fast enough. And so it's either freezing cold or very hot. Okay, but the engines and the big guys in the industry have managed to make these operate in these conditions, very well known. Yeah, Chris's opinion is, in the alternator side of it is, it's just a big dumb piece of copper and it is blowing air through it. They're air cooled, right? And so what's in West Texas is a whole bunch of sand. And so when you're air cooling something in West Texas, you're basically blowing sand across it. So the thing with these copper cores is that they are insulated, and then now you're blowing air across them with sand in, and so you're shot blasting the insulation off. So the IP rating, so the environmental rating of these units is actually very low. And I believe the longevity of these might be compromised because of the situation. Our system is IP67, right? You can clean it down with a power washer. You can dunk it a meter underground and underwater, and it will operate. So it's very self-contained, clean, keeps itself cool, and generates real cool, clean electricity.
And I'm curious, how big of an opportunity do you think this is for the growth of this technology and product?
It's huge. It's in the gigawatts. You know, there's many companies that share information out there, and then there's some potential customers that have shared numbers with us that, you know, I don't want to say, but if anybody just Googles the opportunity for gigawatts in power generation, it's just huge. And, you know, I'm very conservative whenever I do a business plan, and maybe this is why we're successful, is that, you know, I don't think, oh, I'm going to take 80% of this business, I'm going to go kick them in the ass, you know. It's like, oh, okay, it's a nice market. How can I enter the market? What technology can I bring to the market? How can I make it more cost effective and financially appealing to somebody else? But then what market share could I attain, and is it sustainable? And so typically I'd look for like 4% of a market share. If I could take 4% of a market share and then get my numbers wrong and only get 2% of a market share, is that a feasible business to run? And if it is, then we press go. And then if you blow your 2%, your 4%, you get 30%. If you do what we did in frac pumps and become the market leader in frac pumps, well, that's just badass, right? And it's just cream. But that's typically what we do. So in the power generation market, if I can take 2% of that market, we'll be really happy.
What's your approach to building products? Like, you have so many different innovative technologies. How do you find the right time that, look, we need to build a generator, we need to build a hybrid transmission? How do you know this is the right time to build this product?
Now's the time, right? No matter what product you're looking at, people try and plan based on different influences, right? Whether it be geopolitical, whether it be economic conditions. You know, I saw a business plan many years ago. In a 7-year cycle, you're going to see a recession, right? And now you might see more recessions in a 7-year plan. I don't know, right? It's going to happen. But if you try and pick that curve, when you're going to start, when you're going to finish, you're never going to pick it right. Just do it right. Start it when you're ready. Make sure you manage your cash so you don't get into trouble. That's a lot of people, right? Get in trouble with cash flow. Yeah. So structure your business that you're sustainable no matter what happens in the worst conditions. Control your costs. And that typically is people and buildings, and then building product. And so, you know, we don't pay rent. We operate out of a ranch in the northwest of Houston, and so we have no rent to pay. And if we stop work and the whole world falls apart, I don't have to pay a landlord, right? And so we do things like that. Now, is that containing? It is containing because we really need bigger buildings already, right? So we've been looking for 6 months for alternative facilities that can help us. But that's.
We talked a lot about very innovative products, and it's an industry that's led by a lot by specs and a lot of technicalities. So, talking about marketing, how do you market that value and tell a story that people can understand?
Well, you know, we're in a very unique industry in energy and fracking that typically everybody knows everybody who's any good. If nobody knows you, then that's a different approach, right? But typically for us, everybody knows the people who are involved in this business, right? And the NEP people, and we're very fortunate, right? The energy industry is, you know, Johnny Daniels has his barbecue, right? In West Texas, there's 6,200 people that were there, and nearly everybody knows everybody. You know, you walk through the gate, and we only got the second booth down, right? The second barbecue down. We were there for an hour because everybody's walking past you. Everybody knows everybody, right? It's a small world. But typically, what we needed was it was more of a website for verification and validation, right? Because typically people know what you're doing. Everybody knows what everybody's doing. If you want them to know, but it's typically for, hey, I'm doing this, and then somebody else in the business will then go and look at your website for verification. But then what does the website is then a representation of your company. So it has to be structured right. And so we are a technology company, we're innovative, and we want to do some cool stuff. So your website's got to look innovative, it's got to look cool, it's got to look badass. Correct, right? Because it's a complementation. You know, you might want to ask, like, how did we get working together, right? Yeah. And so, you know, I started looking at different people's websites, and I thought, well, okay, you look at what's cool and what's like, what might represent your company on how it's portrayed on a website. And I saw a few websites that were designed by Midnight Marketing, right? Well, these are pretty cool. And then I went on your website, and what I really appreciated was your upfront pricing structure. You know, you start in a business, regardless how much money you have in a budget, you know, it's got to be apportioned in the right areas. And what I liked was 3 areas of opportunity to spend. Yeah. And I called Tim up and says, hey, Tim, we got this much money in a company for a website and a bit of branding. However, can you help me out? And I told him what I needed. He says, sure, Chris, we'll do that for you. And so there's a couple of things there. I like the way your image was. I like talking to Tim. I liked his approach to business. I appreciated that he was a startup as well. It's been brilliant, just from the finding midnight marketing, understand how you portray a brand, how do you build a brand, and then how do you execute on the rollout. It's pretty cool. The costing of it all was just fantastic. Working with Tim was amazing. But then just giving us what we wanted when we wanted was just fantastic. The team on what you put together, it was just the support network. Yeah, it's been great.
Why did you choose in an industry where, a lot of the time companies blend in and they all kind of have the same messaging, the same kind of look. They don't really choose to invest in brand.
Yeah.
But why did you choose and put a huge importance on having bold, out there branding?
Because I think that's what we are too. Somebody wants something different too, right? I go back to the couple of words that I don't like, right? Game changer, right? What a crap word that is, right? But if you got to be innovative, right? You got to be a bit disruptive, and that's what we want to be, right? Whether it's in your branding strategy, what you look like, the products that are going out from your company, just the way how people carry themselves, and it might rub some people up wrong sometime. Then maybe that's not the people you want to work with, right? So it's who we are. We execute really fast, and we're not slowing down for anybody.
Go big or go home. That's the philosophy.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I've heard that before.
And you've had a pretty long career and had like your previous role. You learned a lot about marketing huge budgets. How have all those experiences helped shape you with your marketing strategy?
I'd say a lot of the big companies waste a lot of money. If you go back to some of the big, huge blue chip companies, they might spend $800,000 just on one show, right? Yeah. By the time you paid for the hotels, the sales guys, drinking budget, paying the unions to put things in there, you got to sell a lot of product to make that 800 grand back, right? And who's paying for it? The customer. So it's not good value for the customer, in Chris's opinion. So I think finding the right amount, finding the right shows to go. Maybe not even going the shows, Yeah, I was listening to a podcast this morning about Ron Dennis, the guy that founded, part of the McLaren business and the F1 side. And his whole marketing strategy was to put it into a building, right? Yeah. And he told his investors, I'm going to build this badass building that looks fantastic. Yeah. And when our customers come, they're going to see technology. Yeah. And when they leave, they've got to be thinking, driving down the road, and I can't remember the exact numbers and the categories, right? Is that, they want to think 90% technology and 10% Disney, right? So that is their marketing. But he says, don't see it as an investment in a building. See it as part of your marketing strategy and budget. This is how you perceive by your customer.
Yeah, brand is all about reputation. It's how people perceive you. And it's very important when you're offering out technologies and trying to sell your product.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah, I love that McLaren story. Moving forward, Chris, looking ahead for 2025, what's the vision? Where's INY headed for 2025?
Oh man, we was going to be a whirlwind. 25 is going to be a whirlwind. I am so excited. I've been on the phone a few times. People don't know we're sitting in Canada at the moment, right? And I had butterflies in my tummy yesterday, because certain things are coming in and coming together. I'm just so excited about it, right? It's going to be 2025 is going to be a good year, and it depends on different things. And again, as I said previously, certain things are out of my control, right? People's budget for capex, right? Yeah. Geopolitical items, governmental issues that might come up, right? Trump might wake up one morning and say he's going to tax a whole bunch of different things a different way, right? Things I can't control. But we're 13 months old, right? November the 1st was our birthday. And we've done a lot. I thought we were going to have product out before now, right? And people might have just over optimistic when you see how difficult and how technology and how creative our product is, right? But we've still done things really fast, because if I hadn't set the target of 6 to 7 months, that we've come in at 12 to 13 months. If I'd been a big company and said, oh, let's do this over 5 years and let's spend $12 million and still screw it up at the end, we've wasted 5 years, or, a certain portion of that 5 years for sure, right? But next year, we're going to roll our product out. Man, we got people just begging to be the first people, right, to use it. So that's when you got something cool. And so we're going to do the first show in the Woodlands. And so if anybody wants to see it, We're going to be exhibiting our first hybrid transmission at the SBA show the first week in February. That'll be pretty cool. And then we'll do the John Daniels event, which is Thrive, which is just a phenomenal event down at the Minute Maid, and that'll be the first week of March. And so we'll roll the product out there to show people, just to say, hey, this is real. You know, somebody many years ago told me, and she'll know who she is when she's listening now, is that she says, Chris, I don't want to see no fucking CAD model. She says, anybody can create a CAD model, and they can be anywhere in the world, and it might not even be real, but anybody can create CAD. I want to see I want to see the real product, right? And I think that's when you show people you really are developing something, when they come to a show, see it, touch it, talk to us, understand how it's going to work. So that's going to be badass. And that's just our first product, right? Like I said earlier on, you got to generate cash flow. You got to give people something that they want, and that's what the hybrid transmission is. And you know, we'll put a strategy together, and we'll start rolling out our Me Too transmission, and at the same time working on the fundamentals of the big transmission too. I tell you what else we're going to do next year as well, which is pretty unique, is we're going to build our own trailer too. You know, one thing I learned many years ago is when we did DigiFrac, right? People talk about it. It's fantastic. It looks revolutionary, right? It looks like a TIE fighter. It's just absolutely badass. Is that I remember building the first ones and customers coming in to see running an R&D. Because you can tell them a story, you can show them a PowerPoint presentation, right? All the big E&Ps, yeah, they've heard it all before. When they come in, they see it operating, it's like, wow, okay, that is doing what it's doing. Exactly, this means business. That's a great one. And so that's what we want to do. So we're going to build our own trailer, and we want to show people how it operates, and it'll be available for demonstrations, and in June, July. And again, Chris is optimistic again, right? So you might call Chris's June, July, August, September, but it'll be available in Q2, Q3, fully integrated, operational, in his Intellidrive system on there, right? So a lot of this is software driven as well, right? A lot of very specific algorithms in there that make things happen. Pretty badass, right? Joe does a great job of looking after. He's working his ass off, developing the software for us. He's got a bunch of contractors. We do it in sprints, right? People who've never developed software before, and this is all new to me years ago, right? Is you tell somebody what you want, right? But how do you convey that message, and how do you monitor it, right? Because you get these guys sitting away, coding away. You're like, okay, when is it going to pop out of the sausage machine, right? So you do it in 2-week sprints. You give them a defined amount of goals. That's what I'd like to see in this sprint. Let's report out in 2 weeks, and that's what we do in these 2-week sprints. And so the work that Joe's doing is just phenomenal, you know. So that's what we're going to do in 2025. We're going to have strategies, executions, rollout, technologies available to see, and this will all be before our second birthday.
And he's hitting the road, 2025.
Oh yeah. We'll be hitting the road.
And you'll be making some noise.
You know, I want to develop some cool stuff.
Yeah.
You know, some technologies have been around, done a great job. If you take about the market leader at the moment on transmissions, they've been around for many years. Not much has happened, but what happens there is just like what happened in the car industry many years ago, right? You got the big three that complained when Toyota and Honda came in, but just look what it did for the quality of the American car industry, right? The quality of product has just gone up and up. So competition is good for people. Approaching a problem a different way is good for the industry. It's good for the end consumer. You know, it's good for everybody.
And on a personal level, as well, obviously it's been a fantastic year for INY. There's a lot on the horizon for 2025 and exciting times ahead. But as well, on a personal level, your son, Jak Buckley, just founded his own company.
Yeah.
How have you kind of mentored and guided your son Jak on his own venture and starting his own company?
You know, I think it's installed, you know, it's not in your DNA, right? But you watch your parents and see what they do. Yeah. I remember my dad working really hard. You know, he was an operations manager for GEC. I'd always seen my dad working 6-7 days a week. You know, I'd always seen him doing overtime most days. He'd always got home to take me to go to sports and things, right, to keep the family side and the balance. But man, he did so much work. My mom was always at work at full time. So I think my son's watching how we operate as a family. My wife's had many businesses, and they've been very successful. You know, when we had our first business, ST9, my wife used to write me a check every month. She used to write me a check for $10,000. Chris, use your pocket money to go on the road and try and sell stuff, right? So she actually funded a lot of that first part, right, for pocket money. So your kids see that, see how you operate, see how you build a business, see how you do things with nothing. And I think that's what Jak's going to do now, right? I mean, yeah, that's pretty. Jak's got some cool products that are coming out this year too. Again, a lot of stuff for me too. So I think he follows what we do, right? So he watches the same things. He watched how we did ST9, and we did a few smaller businesses before, right? So he sees how they start off and operate. So yeah, I think he's going to do some Me Too. He's going to do some value businesses. He's also waiting to see what happens in the industry too, right? What 2025 is going to be an interesting year for Me Too products, especially at that level. I know he's got some ideas on some cooler technology as well and how you solve things differently. So yeah, it's a great business for a young budding guy to build a team and execute the same way, you know.
How does it feel to watch your son follow after your footsteps?
You know, everybody's proud of the kids, right? You know, even my eldest son, you know, Brett, he still works for Liberty. You know, when we started ST9, people always think that, you know, you go get venture capital money, you go get a big building, you get 30 people working for you, and you get yourself an admin, and it doesn't work like that, you know. When we had ST9, Brett, we'd build fluid ends in our garages. You know, we had 2 garages and a subdivision, and we'd assemble in one, and we'd do some other post-processing in another. And there's pictures, I try and put it on the website a couple of times, right, or on LinkedIn, and you see me and Brett building fluid ends in our drive, right? So Brett was huge on that. Now, Brett still works for Liberty, and he loves Liberty, right? Excuse me. He loves the technology, and he loves the big company feel. You know, he has a family, and he needs more security, and he needs what he needs, right? But he just loves working for Liberty. He loves rolling out the technology. He loves making improvements on the technology that's already out there, right? Everything can be improved. Yeah, but it was pretty badass. You know, a story when we first started at ST9, we were in the garage building fluid ends on quite a nice subdivision in Houston, right? And I remember these 18-wheelers would come into a gated community, and I'd go down the drive with my forklift loading up these fluid ends. Again, we were self-funded, right? So we would build 4 fluid ends at a time. And I remember the lady from the HOA got a piece of paper, and I said, "Mr. Buckley, you can't do this no more." And it's like, "Got the fucking road. I got to load this truck up, man. I got to get some fluid ends out." And so she was very pleased when we left the subdivision. But again, managing costs, right? Didn't want to spend money on a building. They did add 2 garages, right? So anyway, that's my kids. So Brett's still at Liberty, still evolving the technology that was created when it was ST9, and doing a great job there. Jak, entrepreneurial, building up his own business, and I'm sure that's going to do pretty well as well.
And how important has it been having Lindsey by your side throughout this whole journey?
It's really important. You know, this time, Lindsey comes with me a lot of the time, right? She obviously it's the family money that's invested in the business, right? So she's a stakeholder. She's agreed so much money that we can spend on the business, so it's very important. But what I really appreciate about Lindsey this time is she's got the freedom to come with me, right? So when we go to customers, she can tell her perspective of the business, right? Which is different than salesman Chris on technology, right? And getting all excited about gears and fucking bits of steel, right? She can tell people a different perspective. But what I have noticed, right, in the last 12 months is when we leave a potential meeting, right, a meeting of a potential, I'll ask her, "Hey, what did you take from that meeting?" Because Chris is very half full, right? I have my rose-colored glasses on all the time, right? I'm very excited about everything. Yeah, you've got to be right. We can solve anything. But we'll only say, Chris, I picked up this vibe from that meeting, right? And it might not be negative, it's just a different perspective, right? It might be, "Hey, Chris, that guy was just using you for information. He's going to go and do his own thing in her opinion," right? And so it's great to have her traveling with me. It's great for her to have a different perspective. You know, when we first rolled out DigiFrac, that was cool technology that people had never seen before, right? I mean, it really was. It is rocket science, right? Even though rocket science is very well documented now, right? It's actually not that hard, right? Is that we've got out onto pad with our first prototype unit, and the guys in the field didn't realize we're all on the same radio comms, right? And I remember Brett telling me, he says, "Dad," he says, "Digi1 rolled out once, right? And on the comms, the guy saying, 'The fucking robots are coming, guys. The fucking robots are coming. They're going to take our fucking jobs, man.'" And then we just leave it. We don't say anything, right? He says, you know, and he says, as the week goes and they see it running, they go, "Man, that's the smoothest fucking 12 barrels I've ever seen fucking pump, man. That's fucking badass." And then when you're rigging down and you're leaving after 2 or 3 weeks when the job's done, people are coming up to you, shaking your hand, saying, "Man, that's badass technology," you know? And that's kind of the learning process that people have to go through when you give them something new. It's just the same as relationships, right? You go through the stormy stage and then you end up being friends, right? And yeah, that's what happens when you roll technology out. You got to show people how it operates. And that's why I've got to get these units running in the field, right? Because you can talk a good game, you can show people real cool shit. But going back to that lady that says, Chris, I don't want to see CAD models, right? I want to see the real thing. That's when, we had a bearing delivery a couple of weeks ago. I showed people what our bearings are. And some people might say, oh, Chris, why are you showing people the size of your bearings? Hey, Chris, you've got the box of the manufacturers in the background. Well, a couple of things there. I'm showing you how big our product is. I'm showing you that we're working with huge reputable companies that make our product, that offer us, PhD engineering support, right, and everything we do. And it's badass because I made a reference to the SpaceX banana, right, and showing you how the size of our product is. It really is the biggest bearing in a frac transmission.
And Chris, for anyone listening to this right now who wants to build something but scared of making that jump, what would your advice be to that listener out there?
Well, I said go do it straight away for me, but the first thing is, and this applies to anybody, right? Whether you work in a bakery, in a bake shop, right? Whether you're a machinist, whether you're a frac hand in the field, right? It doesn't matter, right? What value do you add to your boss that he is charging somebody else for, right? And then why can't you do that yourself? And then work it out. I remember when I left to start ST9, right? I worked out in my head, okay, how much profit is in each fluid end? What will I sell it for? How much can I sell it for? How many fluid ends do I sell just to have to pay for my salary that I get today? And you'll see it's actually very little amount that you've got to do, right? You can be your own boss. So think of it that way. What value are you creating for somebody else that they are capitalizing to somebody else? And it's not for everybody, because you get a whole bunch of heartache and shit that you got to deal with, You have to worry about many things that you just learn to cope with. It just become normal. So there's a learning curve there. But I advise many people just go and do it.
And be an optimist. I love that.
Yeah, I always be. When we travel anywhere, I remember, we were in a car somewhere last week traveling across Europe, and it said on the GPS, 1 hour and 20 minutes, and I said, hey, we'll be there in an hour, and it was like, no, it's an hour and 20 minutes. Well, you're actually going to be in the city the last 20 minutes, so in your mind you're already there, right? So I get told off a lot for being a little bit optimist. But, just got to make it happen. So anyway, that's my advice to somebody. And seek some mentorship, right? If somebody's done it before, if anybody wants to go out for lunch, I'll take somebody out for lunch. And I'm not always the best person. People take me out for lunch too, right? And inspire me and give me guidance too. And so it's just always pick a team of mentors or somebody you respect or somebody you think you can learn for. There's always free lunches, not free lunches, but free time for lunches. Everybody has to eat every day, whether it's a breakfast or a lunch. Ask somebody out for lunch and ask somebody out for breakfast and just see what you can learn. If you see somebody in a hotel, I love doing this sometime, and just ask them what the story is.
Be curious.
Yeah, just be curious. I sit there sometimes watching some people and I'm thinking, wow, how did you do that? I love to know what your story is or what your background is, Sometimes just go up to and ask them, It's a bit different in America. In Europe, if you're in a pub, you talk to anybody in a pub and anybody will tell you the life story, right? No problem, right? And America's a little bit different, but the people out there, right? So anyway, that's my advice is seek some mentorship, just go do it. Make sure you got the right time in your life too. If you've got a mortgage and 3 young children, might not be the right time. But if you've got no children and you've got a small mortgage, now's a great time. If your kids have just left school and they're not so much of a burden, now's a good time to go and do it.
And what do you think of that? You mentioned the UK, obviously.
Yeah.
You're from. You grew up in England. What do you think the main difference is between the US and the UK when it comes to building businesses?
Building business, and I might be biased, but you can go on, you can do a patent search and see where a lot of technology is developed, right? And if you go back in time, who created the Industrial Revolution, right? Actually, I think the Scots actually developed a lot more patents than maybe the English did at a certain time, right? But I think Europe in general is very innovative. Very innovative. They do some cool stuff. Commercialization, in Chris's opinion, that there's some opportunity there for them to do it a little bit better. America or North America is very good at commercialization. It's a great thing. So it maybe some hurdles in the way. Just there's so many people, so much opportunity, so much, and you feel like you can do it. It really is the American dream when people say it, right? Who would have thought, Chris, when I left school for £1.50 an hour, I'd come over and sold more frac pumps a couple of years ago than anybody else in the industry, right? but the opportunities there. Yeah, it is amazing. And some of the technology is pretty cool in America as well. They do some cool stuff as well. I just think that the difference between Europe, very innovative, not so great at commercialization. It might be because there's more people in America, more opportunity. I don't know, and I might be wrong as well. It's just my perception, but yeah, it's just great.
And what was it like when you met Donald Trump?
Oh, I guess if people don't know what we did there, I'm very fortunate. I live on a street with a lot of influential people, right? And there's a lady who lives 4 down that sold her business years ago. I won't tell you the name of her business. She sold, but very influential, super lady. And she sent an email out one Saturday and said, "Hey, Donald Trump's coming to my house next Saturday. Who wants to come?" So, wow. This was a couple of years ago. I think it was January 2022, right? Little did we know they were fundraising to do what he's done now, right? So yeah, we'll go. And then they send out the price list. Oh, there's a price list, right? So you can pay so much money to go in a house, stand behind the red line. You can spend so much money for a photograph. Cool. You can spend so much money to sit down at the table and ask questions. I thought that's a lot of money. And you can't write it off against taxes. You can't run it through a business. It's a donation. And so I said, you know what? I got a proposal. I said, and we were just launching DigiFrac, right? DigiFrac was rolling out to the field. We had the production units rolling out. And it's a badass looking product. And I said, hey, Julie, we'll give you the money, right? But, when Donald Trump and his Cascade comes past my house, can we stop? Have a picture with him, just because he'd been out to West Texas before and his reception was phenomenal, right? People, he's very inspirational too, right? A very inspirational guy, gets shit done. And she says, let me make the call, right? So they called the White House because everything's still controlled by the White House, I believe, even though you're not the current president, right? Sure, we'll do it. You've got to pay the money, right? Oh, okay, I'll pay the money. But she says, we're going to do it at our house. And she's got this beautiful house, big garden. I says, right, you want to park? This track trailer is 98,000 pounds in weight, right? Shall I park it in the street? She says, fuck that, Chris, park it in my garden. And she's got, I don't know how much the house is worth, right? $8-10 million, right? Park it in my garden. I said, Julie's going to damage your grass. She says, Chris, it's fucking grass is going to go back. So that's a lady who's been developed her own company, managed people, sold a company that knows different, right, than other people that might be my neighbors that were high up in very big companies that have done things differently, right? And I remember the trailer coming across the bridge, and first neighbor used to be an attorney, right? Of course, he stops my son and his guys. You can't bring that here on this trailer. Well, you'll have to have a word with my dad. And this 98,000 pound trailer came around, and we're about to reverse it on Julie's grass. And Brett knocks on the door and goes, Julie, there's a tree in the way. She says, Brett, cut it fucking down. We'll plant another one. And that's the attitude you need, right? Trees are great, but you can plant more trees, right? If you've got to get something, what have you got to do to get that done, right? So there was our unit parked in Julie's garden as all the Cascade that came past, and parked up outside Julie's house. We were inside there. We sat, luckily enough, to sit around the table opposite Donald Trump, ask some questions, share some opinions, and it was just a great opportunity. And then when he was re-elected again, right? I mean, it was some great pictures for me to stick on LinkedIn again. So yeah, it was a win-win for us, double twice. Yeah.
And Chris, at the end of the day, what does it all mean to you? What does happiness mean to you?
Financial freedom. To do what I want when I want. I'm very lucky, and a lot of this comes down to Liberty Energy, Chris Wright, Ron Gusak, and in the team there, and Mike. They've just been brilliant to me. They gave me an opportunity to develop my dream, put the technology in the field, and really disrupt everybody. It was badass. So I thank them for that. I had the financial freedom to do it. Can we retire? Sure. But who wants to retire? What are you going to do? Sit at home all day? I sometimes think about, I love Formula One, by the way, and that's very inspirational too, because if you look how a Formula One team runs, right? Technology, it's developed fast, right? So you've got technology, you've got how fast they execute things, it's just the competitiveness. It's just great. And so sometimes I think about bidding on a job to be a machinist at a Formula One company, just to do the cool products that they do. It's just badass, So I think about that. But at the moment, we have our freedom, right? And that's what everybody should, I think, aspire to do, right? Then you can do what you want. You want to go lie on a beach? Go lie on a beach. But we don't want to go lie on a beach, right? I want to create some more product. I want to give opportunities for the people that helped me when I needed help a couple of years ago. And so, all the team at the company all have equity in the business. I might be a small shareholder in any, right? Because it's not all about the money. It's been a bit disruptive and doing some bad shit. And so, anyways, that's what it means to me. It means that if I want to take my grandchildren on holiday and don't worry about work, I can go and do that. It means that if I want to take my grandchildren into work whenever I want, I can do that. I got a 2-year-old grandson, and we'll go to the ranch every Saturday to do something, right? And you've never seen a 2-year-old pick up a set of wrenches and try and do something with it. When you're pushing a gantry crane around and you're pushing both sides, or you're trying to balance the crane, he tries to help you, right? So it's my job. I think, what I learned from my parents and from my people that helped me throughout the years has been great. And I think, okay, what can I give back to my kids? But then what can I give to my grandchildren? I didn't learn things that I needed to learn until later on in life. But if I can inspire my grandchildren and my children to do things earlier. I was telling Lindsey, he's only 2. I thought, Linz, when do we start teaching him a certain program of maths, right? Because if you can learn maths, you can solve anything, right? You can think about things differently. It's just a great talent. And so that was going through my mind the other day too, right? Is that, how to teach Hugo in particular, like how to be badass, maybe learn things faster than I did, right? Because I'm getting old now, right? And we're all gonna die eventually, right? You're gonna take all that knowledge with you. So what can you pass down and give people sooner? And it's not just my family too. Maybe twice a week if I'm in the country, I'll be out with lunch for somebody. Whether it's breakfast, if we go breakfast place for eggs or whatever, right? We just chat about things because I can learn a lot about things from people too. It's a two-way street, right? You got to give back, right? Sometimes it's just a bit of not coaching, but just telling people just to stick at things, right, and don't give up.
Chris, I want to thank you. I've learned an incredible amount from this conversation, sitting down with you, and I'm sure our listeners, there's so many valuable nuggets of information out there from just listening to this podcast. Last off, Chris, where can people find more about you, Chris Buckley, or about INY?
Oh, and that's the thing nowadays, right? Everybody's so accessible. You can Google somebody and find out how to get hold of them straight away, right? If you go on LinkedIn, type my name in, you'll see me. You can put a link at the end of this podcast. You can put my telephone number at the end of the podcast too, if you want. People want to send me a test, ask me a question. And I don't know everything, but I know more than what I did when I was younger. So it might be useful to somebody. But anyway, yeah, give me a call if you want to know more about the technology. Go on the website. We put just enough on the website to keep people excited. There's some really badass stuff behind there. If you want to come for a factory tour, shall I tell you one last story for the road, right? I used to go to China every month, and there's a guy out there called Mr. Wang, right? And the company's called Hengli. And when I worked for Caterpillar, his company, was, I don't know how to quantify it for people on who are listening, right? But say very, very small company, but substantial, right? Not even medium sized. And I remember how he used to do business. He used to bring his customers around. He used to bring his competition around. He used to bring potential people around. He would show anybody anything, right? And if you asked him why, he'd say, because he can outpace anybody, right? And if you Google Hengli cylinders now, well, he doesn't make cylinders now, he makes everything, right? He makes pumps, he makes valves, he makes everything. And I can't remember the number, but it'd be tens of billions of dollars that his company is worth now. And I first met him in 2008. He couldn't afford a $1 million friction welder, right? And the way he did business and executed, he would take any deal at a fair price just to take the business and grow. And so, yeah, I learned a lot from him. So one thing is just show people, right? If you bring your competition around and they learn something, yeah, so what, right? As long as you can outpace things, you can learn something from them too. I have somebody now who's asking me all the time, Chris, when can we come see you? And they're somebody from a competitor, I say, well, I'd love to come see your place too, And so, you got to show a bit and get a bit either way.
And meeting people in person makes all the difference as well.
That's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up, Get off your arse and go see somebody.
Yeah.
Fucking cars are cheap. Flights are cheap. they really are, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you one more story. I'm full of stories. I was in Austria last month. In Austria, right? Thought we'd take a we'll go see the Christmas markets, you know, and there's a potential supplier that we've been on 2 phone calls for in Spain. And I said, you know what, I'm going to come see you next week. So, oh, we might not be at that stage yet, you know. For 2 people to fly across Europe was €200. It's absolutely nothing. Go see him. You know, we sent them we sent them an email on Friday as a suggested way forward as a partnership, offering them volumes at a strategic price, right, to be a strategic partner. And that was from 2 phone calls and me visiting them for half a day. So go see people, learn. It's different than hiding behind emails, or even teleconferences are pretty cool, right?
Yeah,
But
there's no substitute for it, for in-person meeting.
No. And if you don't drink beer, go have a cup of tea with somebody. If you drink beer, go have beer with somebody.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Last message for the world, Chris, before we finish off?
Oh, man, take on the big guys.
Yeah?
Yeah, go kick them in the ass, man. You know, these guys are worth billions of dollars, and they were small companies one day. If you're somebody in the field, if you're a frack hand, don't be afraid. If you've got an idea, go and do it, you know. If you're a machinist, if you're a baker, if you're working in a marketing company, right? So Tim's going to send me a text when this goes out saying, Chris, what have you done? But I think he's very encouraging too.
Yeah, absolutely.
He seems the same kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
Develop yourself, do things, look after your family, and get yourself that financial freedom. But just be happy. That's the most important thing, is just be happy. Another story, right? I love Formula One. First time I watched Formula One was in 1982 in Kyalami in South Africa, right? My dad took me. Fantastic. Love the sport. It's gone a bit sideways now since Netflix have blitzed everybody's brain.
Yeah.
And people are paying silly money for tickets now. But you know, I do some nice Grand Prix events when I go. But you know, when it came to Austin this year, you know, I got an $80 ticket off StubHub on the Friday. Yeah. I made some sandwiches and some boiled eggs, put them in my backpack, and sat down and had the best $80 worth of entertainment that I've ever had, right? It's just brilliant. It's just a humble, grassroots watching. It doesn't have to be the most expensive, but man, I was as happy as fuck that day. Yeah. And so money doesn't have to give you all the fantastic things, right? Yeah. But, you know, just watching cars racing for $80 was just badass. So anyway, there you go.
Cheers, Chris.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for the time.
Great conversation. And check out INY. Incredible products, incredible founder, and big things coming in 2025. So
yeah, kick the big guys in the dick.
That's a great way to end it.
Cheers.